300 Afghan refugees have resettled in Vermont since the Taliban took control over Afghanistan a little over 2 years ago. I had the chance to speak with one woman who was forced to leave her home, leaving family and everything she knew behind.
It was a very hard transition for everyone.
Sahila escaped war in Afghanistan by moving to Vermont early 2022 amid the Taliban takeover after leaving 12 family members behind. We aren't using her last name for her privacy. She says leaving was traumatic and bouncing between housing at first was difficult. Sahila finally felt peace after meeting her host mother in Guilford.
Did a lot for me, which was the greatest thing I have ever imagining. Still, I'm living with her. I'm hoping in my life I could return her in a way that return what she did for me.
While in Afghanistan, Sahila received her bachelor's degree in English. It was this education that allowed her to get a job as a refugee leadership coordinator at the Ethiopian Community Development Council in Brattleboro, one of the 2 locations statewide helping with resettlement efforts.
Looking at the refugees and determining how difficulties they have, I wanted to be voice of them. I want to help them to have the equal right in the community and help them to be more self-sufficient.
Sahila is now pursuing her master's, an opportunity many Afghan women have never had in their home country. To help refugees get or continue their education, Patrick Leduc of WCAX says the school is using $50,000 in state money to help around 50 take that next step here in Vermont.
Sometimes that academic experience is almost impossible to get evidence of, so we start working with them to figure out what is the path that you want to be on.
For younger immigrants, Vermont Refugee Office Director Tracy Dolan says schools across the state are helping with integration and to improve literacy rates. They are already living and going to school here. And Dolan says Vermont is poised to welcome more Afghan refugees despite the state's low housing stock. She says some landlords will work with refugee organizations, and host families like Sahila's have stepped up too.
You will actually find sometimes it's former refugee families who are actually opening up and saying, yeah, why don't you come and stay with me for a little while. Also, Vermont families who don't have that background, who might have been born and raised in Vermont, also helping out. So there is some of that. And then, occasionally, because the housing market is so tight, sometimes they need to be put in a hotel for a few weeks or for a few days, or maybe an Airbnb.
Back in Guilford, Sahila is thousands of miles away from her home, but still sends money back to her dozen family members. Despite the distance, she considers herself lucky.
I have friends all over the United States of America. The support, the attention that we have in Vermont, we could not find in any other place in the United States of America.
And Dolan tells me the target number of refugees to take in Vermont on a nationwide scale is around 400, but notes we haven't reached that goal primarily because of overseas issues.